in terms of what we're talking about today, it's, how do we follow up and maybe just not mess it up? How do we start to follow up, but maybe not mess it up? Maybe we're having some bottlenecks. Maybe we're having some things that could be a little bit better, could be a little bit nicer. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. In terms of the actual content, 3 key areas that we're going to focus on for our time. Number 1, what are some must-haves for strong client engagement? 2, what are some practical ways that we can maybe stop having just another meeting? Ugh, yuck. And then lastly, how do we ensure that our follow-up is hitting the mark time in, time out, in season, out of season, and that it gets us what we're really looking for? So that's kind of what we're going to be discussing today. But before we get into it, I would be curious, maybe by a show of hands, I'm going to stop sharing so I can see people. Maybe by a show of hands, who currently is in the sales side, who is maybe managing people? Like for those that are doing sales on the sales side, maybe those folks could raise their hands. Okay. Is everyone else here managing people, or give me shout out some of our roles? If you didn't raise your hand for sales.
I'd be on both sides.
You're on both sides. Okay.
Both sides also.
Both sides. All right. Jamie?
Yeah, same here, Kurt. Yes.
Okay. So when we talk about follow-up, we are going to kind of delineate between maybe what does good, strong follow-up look like between us and our customers, us and our buyers, but we will also discuss what does some of that look like for us and our teams. Okay. So as we kind of go into this, let me get back here. Maybe this would help give some context so I know how to best direct our conversation, okay? So here would be the question, and I'll share it on the screen so we can see it. What is it that frustrates you right now around client follow-up? What does that look like in your world? And I'm going to take some notes as you're sharing, but help me out a little bit. What does that look like in your world? You go, gosh, Kurt, if I could have less of X, or I'm tired of hearing Y, like what does that look like?
Not interested at this time.
Not interested at this time. Okay. What else?
Yeah, I'd piggyback on that. Our business is highly time sensitive.
What do you mean?
If it's not on their radar, then we get that response, right? Not interested right now, but at what point would you be interested?
Okay. That's a good one. Not interested today, but just because they're not interested today doesn't really mean that they might not be interested tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Shane?
Yeah, it kind of piggybacks off that. It's really just the maybes. Yeses are my favorite. The no's are my second. It's the maybes that really irk me. And it's just kind of doing the roundabout. And I feel like in today's day and age, like, there's a little bit of the ability where people just have a tendency, they don't really want to say no, or that, like, if they get straight to it, hey, not interested, totally get it. But when they're like, let me get back to you at a later time. Let me just like stew on this for a little bit. That's really the part where you're like, okay, I'd rather not waste my energy and just move on to the next.
So I don't know, I've never met Shane before. I feel like he's teeing us up so strongly, but you started it out really effectively. You said, hey, yes is my favorite answer. What was the second one?
No's are my second, but it's the maybes I don't like.
Yeah. So the first two, I would say, I'm guessing there's a lot of us on here if we're in sales where maybe no is not our second favorite answer. Maybe even for some of us, we're afraid of this 2-letter word and it feels like a 4-letter word. So we might address some of that too. But then how do we change, maybe you called them maybes, those think it overs into some stronger clarity. Okay.
Or they're not interested, but they don't know what they're not interested in. So we haven't been able to give them enough information to know exactly what they're saying no to or what they're uninterested in.
So I hope I'm Ian. Is it Ian or Ian?
Ian.
Thank you. So maybe I think that might be a little different from follow-up, because I think the broader question becomes, in a situation like you're describing, is how do we make sure our narratives have some stickiness? And actually, we're going to be talking about that here in a second. All right. What else? What else about follow-ups? I guess, what is follow-up when a client, has anyone experienced where a client doesn't follow up? What do they normally do? What normally happens in that relationship when you're
They
not
normally
getting,
disappear.
yeah. What do people call that? Ghosting.
Ghosting.
Exactly.
Ghosting. Golly, so offensive. It's horrible. Hey, they were so willing to talk to me 10 times before. What in the world is going on now? Okay, anything else somebody would add to that in terms of frustrations around follow-up?
I would just say that, when not having the predictability going into a proposal, so getting to very late stage opportunities where you're actually pricing and preparing something, and then
Okay.
having no idea whether it's going to close or not.
Ooh, oh my gosh, who was that? Who shared that? Mark, that's exceptional. I think you're scratching at something we're going to hit on today, but I think that needs more conversation is, let's say we spend a lot of time, energy, effort going into a follow-up meeting. How do we have some type of clarity around what can happen? What are some of the outcomes? Now, you shared what some of those outcomes are, but if we're getting a lot of those dreaded TIOs, those think it overs, we could probably be better allocating our resources, our time, our energy, our people's strength to something stronger. All right. Anyone else?
So, I agree with what Shane said and also with what Mark said, but I sort of look at it, the 40,000 foot view is it's all a game of time. So how do you figure out when to cut the cord because there's only so many hours in the day?
Oh, this Peter, really good. Yeah. How do we get greater clarity from our interactions?
Yeah, I mean, if I may add something,
Sure, Joseph.
I find it very valuable to cement exactly when you plan on, making sure the client understands that you're not going to be following up any further. That really kind of puts them in a deep end, and they kind of feel like, oh, okay, I better put this on the forefront of my mind. I better make a note. I better, take initiative on this if I'm actually interested. So if you really communicate to them like this is the final time I will be contacting you, I've had a lot of success with that type of strategy.
Yeah, Joseph hit us a brilliant one. I was going to use this maybe as bonus material. And if we get time, we're going to hit it. We would call this a breakup. How do we do a healthy breakup so that we're not, unfortunately, I think a lot of folks are playing hide and seek, and it's gross, it's bothersome, and our decision makers, our buyers don't value it. Okay, so we talked a lot on the sales side. Does anyone want to throw out something since you're also having maybe some challenges, bottlenecks on the people side that we lead, that we manage? Anything you would add around frustrations about following up with your people that we want to unpack today as well? All right, so let's start diving into some of this. We believe at Sandler that success is an outgrowth. In the same way, I would even say your sale is an outgrowth of other stuff. Success as an organization, success in anything we do is really a lagging indicator. It's made up of a number of things. Number one, attitude. 2, technique. 3, behavior. These things feed into success. And I think oftentimes we spend a lot of time on stuff that's super hard to manage. So for example, I think a lot of times we try to manage our number, but you have relatively little control over if someone's going to say, yes, I'm going to buy today, or I'm going to wait a week, a month. We don't have control over that. So we want to have, when we look at success, we want to have things that are both discrete and identifiable, but also that lead us to continued success over time. Now, here would be my question around this. Of these 3, behavior, technique, and attitude, what would you say might be the easiest to implement? Maybe even the quickest turn where you could get a little bit of boost. What might be the easiest to deal with?
Technique.
Technique, exactly right. What might be the hardest for us to shift?
Attitudes.
Why?
Well, because everyone's an individual.
Yeah. And for a lot of us, our attitudes have been with us for a long, long time. Some of us have these narratives that have been ingrained in us since we were children. Here's a small one that I hear from a lot of salespeople. Kurt, I shouldn't interrupt important people. Kurt, I've got some head trash maybe around money. A penny saved is a penny earned. So when we're selling a larger ticket item to a more complex company, I have some junk on my end that I'm dealing with, and I'm trying to work through it. So those attitudes take time to shift. Lastly, I would say probably the most important of the three is behavior. Behavior's manageable. Behavior's manageable. It's also trackable. And what we call these three triangles, attitude, technique, and behavior, we call these that batting average, BAT. But those behaviors are the most important for us to engage with. And they're also known as eternal triangles. So the more that we focus on our behaviors, the better we feel. It grows our attitude. Maybe I'm implementing a new technique and I'm having some really good success in terms of clients reaching back out to me, giving me some more clarity. So I'm going to do more of it, right? So these really play one on another. So today in our session, we're going to talk a little bit about each one of these categories in terms of some real tangible things that you can start doing. Fair enough? So maybe help me understand from your perspective, what is the actual purpose of follow-up? When I say follow-up unfortunately is a little bit fuzzy language. I think it means different things to different people. And as a consequence, it gets very varied results. So when we say follow-up, what do you mean?
I saw an article recently that said you should get rid of the term follow-up.
Replace it with what?
Looking for your feedback.
Okay. So what does follow-up mean?
Is now the right time?
As a salesperson, does follow-up oftentimes mean I'm the one pursuing you as my customer? I'm hunting you down. I'm seeing if you want to go ahead and schedule that meeting. Is now the right time? Should we hop on a call? Is that kind of what we mean as salespeople?
I think we're assuming that the people aren't remembering us and we need to remind them that we exist.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Now, there's a P word that we call this. It's 4 letters. It's known as a pest. Hey, do you remember me? I know I just talked to you 2 days ago. Don't you remember me? I'm over here. Hello, hello. And I think, unfortunately, it gives us really horrible business posture. It also feels a little Mother May I that I'm begging you. I think, attitude perspective, we want to have what's known as equal business posture. If I'm talking to an executive, if I'm talking to the CEO, I need to have equal business posture versus an unequal business posture, because me as the salesperson, I'm going to have some real icky conversations. Icky conversations around their issues, icky conversations around their money. And if I'm having some kind of wibbly wobbly in terms of where I sit in the relationship, it really dramatically changes the arc of my follow-up. And I would even say the arc of my engagement. Is that fair? Here's the other thing, unfortunately, I wonder. You know, if we took what we often do as salespeople and put it in another context, it would be creepy. I'll give a small example. Let's say I'm out at the bar. It's Friday night. I'm feeling great, looking great. Beard is excellent. And I'm at a bar. I see this young lady and go, oh my gosh, I got to go get this number. This is going to be wonderful. Walk up to her, say, hey, my name's Kurt. What's your name? Oh, Susie, so nice to meet you. Let me take the next 10 minutes, tell you all about me, how great I am. She'd go, oh, get away from me. Wait a minute, let me just follow up with you. I'd love to give you a call. It's so gross. But as salespeople, we do this day in, day out. Day in, day out. And I think, unfortunately, in a very competitive world, if we are acting just like our competition, we're probably getting even less than our competition in terms of engagement, in terms of reach, in terms of referrals. So we got to start doing something different. And we're going to really be talking about this today. I think what happens is oftentimes we're going one way and clients are going another. So we've got to start to reorient ourselves so that we are aligned both with what our clients are wanting from us. Can we even help them? And more importantly, are we aligned in terms of the direction and pace so that we're not having those think it overs? Now, real quick, 9 times out of 10, what does a think it over turn into? Does it turn into a yes or does it turn into a no? 9 times out of 10.
Turns into a no.
Yeah. And unfortunately, those think it overs are often what I would call like a slow no. So what we can do, we can save tons of time by getting and eliminating those. My guess is a lot of us on this call have never told a client that they cannot give us that. When was the last time anyone here, and if somebody has, just put the hand up where you go, hey, I don't take any of those think it overs. We don't do that here at our company. Anyone ever done that? If good for you. All right. So Shane, we want to start to integrate that more consistently in our approach with our clients. That while we want to hear a yes, the reality is we're not going to, as a company, whatever we're selling, our businesses, our services, whatever that is, we're not going to be a fit for everybody. And more happy to kind of hear some of what that might mean throughout our conversation. And should we continue to move it forward, or should we just stop it? So there's going to be some keys for strong engagement. What are some of those keys? I think one, we got to start focusing on the right things and not focus on the wrong things. I think while we are in a very heavily outcome-based business, if we're in sales, the reality is those results, again, they're an outgrowth of other stuff. So if we're going to continue to have strong engagement from our customers, we don't want to focus on the results. We want to focus on what gets us those results. And while it could take us in many various ways, here's some areas. Number one, you got to start to see yourself not, well, ooh, that's horrible. Let me maybe ask the question. Maybe it's not about what Kurt's saying. Maybe let's ask the question. If you were to survey 100 people and ask them, hey, how would you describe salespeople? What are some of the top words you think you'd hear? Oh, aggressive. Okay. What else?
Pushy.
Pushy, aggressive. What else?
Persistent.
Oh, persistent. That's kind of a nice way to say pushy. I like that. What else? Ian, what do you got? Mark, what do you got? What do you think they're saying to you about salespeople? What words are coming up?
I think that a lot of that is unspoken. So I think that it's all of those things that people are saying, along with just the notion of missing the connection. So they think they're talking to you for one reason, you think you're talking to them for another, and you're missing that connection between. That's the real problem they're looking to solve.
So this is a great one. This is a little bit deeper that Mark shared with us. Salespeople are they focused on me as a customer or them? They're focused on themselves. They don't care about my issues. And I think until we start changing some of these narratives, by the way, none of those sounded good. Aggressive, pushy. Somebody was really nice and said persistent, only cares about them. They're me monsters. They're going to charge me more if they can and get away with it. These are not positive things. And I think for salespeople, this really affects how we approach consumers. Here's the reality, and it's what starts us off. We are their trail guide. We should stop seeing ourselves maybe as so much as salespeople, but maybe more like a doctor, a trail guide, someone that's there to facilitate a healthy process, a process that means that I know what the heck I'm doing time in, time out. Here's one that you're probably going to hate. One that doesn't mean that I'm an expert. I'm an expert. It's fine to be an expert on your stuff. I think we're telling too many people that stuff that they don't care. They're like, ugh, why you keep showing up and throwing up on me? I don't care about what you care about. I care about my stuff as the customer. I think we should be better experts on them. A trail guide is a great expert on the trail, the path forward, but they also become a strong expert on that buyer. So in terms of engagement, our buyers have been silently begging for clarity and direction. We can never get clarity or direction if we only focus on our junk. Our junk being, I got to get this sale of the day. I got to meet my quarterly number. Hey, I'm here to tell you all about me. Can't tell you how great we are. I tell you what, we got smarter, faster, better people than Bob down the street. His people are ugly and stupid and they don't have kids. You know, we got to stop that stuff, but we do it too often. So to have greater clarity and direction. Number two, so there are a lot of right ways that people can turn. We got to know the roadmap to get there. From that first engagement to the last, what is our roadmap? And have I articulated that to my customer, my buyer? Somebody said this earlier. They talked about these great things called outcomes. I believe there's only two outcomes. There's a yes, there's a no. A lot of us are accepting think it overs. Call me back in a month. Call me back in 6 months. Call me back in a year. I think if we were to tell them that we don't take think it overs, we don't do that at our company. It's not a part of our process. And we nurture that statement healthily, we could get to those no's quicker. For a lot of us, we're going to save time by getting to a no quicker. Lastly, I think ultimately, and I've been kind of saying this in other ways, but I think the last one is that strong engagement starts with the WIFM. Does anyone know what a WIFM is? This is great for our people, but great for our buyers. Does anyone know what WIFM stands for by chance?
Yes, sir. What's
What
in
is-
it for me?
What's in it for me? Absolutely. To me, this is where every meeting should start off. And it's actually in some ways where every meeting should end. They should be our bookends. What's in it for me? So it might sound like, for example, hey, Peter, I appreciate you spending a little time with me. By the way, I'm going right into ANOT, this acronym. This is how I might structure a meeting to get more out of it and better follow-up. I'm going to bookend it. Peter, really glad we could spend a little time together today. I think right now we show us down for an hour. Is that time still comfortable for you? Okay. Now, when we spoke last, the top issues you described to me were 1, 2, 3. Did I get that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, naturally, you're going to have some other questions. I get it. What else would you add to, aside from A, B, C, what else would you add to our agenda for today? Things that are most important for you that we cover. You would say maybe B, C, D. Fair enough. Now, obviously, this is our O. Obviously, there's going to be some things I'm going to need to do to figure out how we get there. And so I'm going to need to ask you some more questions. And T, last one. Now, typically, here's the experience, Peter. Somewhere during the relationship, during our time today, maybe you figure out we're not the strongest fit for you. How comfortable would you be with sharing that information with me? Oh, Kurt, I'm very happy to share that with you. Fair enough. Well, Peter, sometimes I find out we're not going to be the strongest fit for you. If I were to figure that out, would you hate your guts if I share that with you? No, Kurt, that'd be perfect. Great. If we're not saying no to one another, can we spend the last 5 minutes and figure out what a healthy next step would look like? Now, this is what we would call an upfront contract. Brains love upfront contracts. It starts to pull down the temperature of the experience, but also it gives us some clarity in terms of what the heck are we doing? It's not me just showing up and giving you a presentation and hoping you love it. You know, I got to be Tom Brady knocking it down for 40 years. That's not how this works. We are co-laboring in the process. So that's the beginning of the meeting. Now comes time where we would typically want to schedule some type of follow-up. End of the meeting. Hey, Bob, we got about 10 minutes left. From your perspective, what would you like to do next? Oh, let me say that again. That's a powerful question. I'm guessing a lot of us aren't asking. What would you like to have happen next? And then I might give a little bit of option. I say, hey, you know, for some people, they'd like to schedule another meeting and hash out what this might look like more specifically. For others, it might look like this. And lastly, for some, it looks like that. What would you like to do? Where's the power in asking that question? Where's the power in asking the question, what would you like to see happen next? I'll pick on somebody here in 2 seconds.
You're giving the leadership back. You're giving the control back to the decision maker.
Love it. So it certainly seems that way, doesn't it? It looks like I'm given the control over. Who really has the control when they ask good questions? Yep, Shane knows it. Absolutely right. When we ask good, healthy questions, we facilitate the process. So when we focus on what our customers needs, the engagement's going to be higher. What's in it for them? Meaning, not me telling you all about my features, benefits, and all that nonsense. I don't think most people care about that, actually. But you go, well, wait a minute, Kurt. No. They need to know how good we are. Nah, everyone's telling them that. Maybe we should be having a conversation around what they care about most, what's frustrating them most about the products or services that we happen to sell. And then if we use a healthy engagement tool, ANOT is just one of them. There's others that we at Sandler teach. This is just one example because it's really natural. Hey, I appreciate us getting together. We're talking about time. Naturally, they've got questions. Obviously, we have questions. And typically, there are some ways that this can go. So we're talking about time. We're talking about what we're doing together. And we're talking about where this relationship can go. By the way, I'm super horrible at managing the this thing here. So here, let me
Sorry,
start.
Kurt, what was that? Appreciate, naturally?
Obviously and typically.
Obviously, typically.
Yep.
Thank you.
And then I think we got to start getting that buy-in. I think we get that buy-in not by saying, hey, I'd love for us to schedule another meeting, but when we really start to ask, what would you like to have happen next? Now, let's say someone says, gosh, I don't know. What do we do then? I think we ask a really powerful question, or maybe make a really powerful statement. Now, you've got to nurture it. Today, I'm giving you a little orange concentrate, but you're going to want to nurture this in terms of your tonality and delivery, but it might sound like this. Hey, I know we talked about this up front. It sounds like this, you feel like this may not be the right solution that you guys are looking for. Ooh, sounds like this might not be the right resource for you. Ooh, that's a scary one. Got to have a little guts to say that. What if they say yes? Well, now you know. Here's a way to pull a hook in. Sounds like you feel like this might not be the right resource for you guys at this time. Tell me how I'm wrong. Tell me how I'm wrong. That's a serious hook. Well, no, Kurt, no. I think this could be a real fit for us. Oh, tell me, when you say it could be a real good fit, what do you mean? Why might this be a helpful resource for you guys right now? Okay, so they say, hey, 1, 2, 3, great. Normally, or typically in those types of situations, it might make sense to schedule another meeting. Maybe we even need to bring in somebody, another stakeholder. What are your thoughts? When would you like to see that happen? So that's how we get some stronger engagement. Number one, we stop, while our clients are really wanting clarity and direction, we stop begging for the sale. Number two, we start to outline a roadmap in terms of what's going to happen in our meetings, both at the beginning of the meeting, at the end of every meeting. It is just a part of your process. And lastly, when we're doing that, we're also talking about the WIFM. We're focused on what they care about most, and we only talk about that. So let's say they say, Kurt, I'm most interested in A and B, but I know a lot of our clients like C. I might ask the question, say, hey, perfect. Hey, you know, some of our clients really want to hear about this other thing called C. Would it make sense for us to spend any time on that? No. That hasn't been a big issue for us. Hey, appreciate you letting me know. I'm now going to take my agenda and just focus on what they care about, nothing else. Does that make sense? Another meeting blues. Oh man, do we need another one? Makes me want to puke. I hate meetings. I hate them. I think clients hate them the most. Here's who doesn't mind having another meeting. People that can not make a decision. People that can't make a decision for their company around your services. They don't mind having another meeting with you. They don't care. They're trying to get out of work. So sometimes we have a little bit of challenge creating traction because we're not calling up high enough in the organization to speak to actual decision makers. We're dealing with in-betweeners. And sometimes while they can say no, they don't have the power of the person. They can't say yes. So we want to be creating traction with those folks that we can have impact on. Now, for me, I like to go up to the top. I don't believe in starting at the bottom and working my way up. Now, sometimes you have to in a large matrixed organization, but for me, I want to start as high as I can go. I think, again, to get better traction in our meetings, to make sure that we're not wasting their time, and more importantly, we're not wasting our time, is by having those things that we called upfront agreements a moment ago. Here's another quick example of what that might sound like. We actually did one today. I don't know if you caught it. Hey, here's the time. Hey, it looks like we got about an hour together. Agenda, number 2. What are we going to talk about? So agenda, what do we need to be discussing? Here's how that sounds in terms of a talk track. Jamie, I've got us down for an hour. Is that time still good for you? Yep, sure is, Kurt. Great. Hey, here are the top 2 or 3 things you said you wanted to cover. Anything else you want to add to that? Nope, that's perfect. Okay, for us to kind of get there, I know you're wanting to talk about maybe scope of service, budget stuff. Hey, we're going to get as much of this as we can get covered today. I'm going to need to ask some more questions to just make sure that I'm staying aligned with what you're trying to accomplish. Is that fair? Yep, Kurt, that works. Okay, great. Hey, at the end of this time, we may figure out we're not going to be a good fit for one another. If you figure that out, it's the question. You got to make sure you're asking the question. How comfortable would you be sharing that with me? There's a power in the question, not the statement. It's not as strong as you go, hey, if it doesn't sound like a fit, just let me know. Let's not do that. Let's ask the question and put the power in their hands. How comfortable are you sharing that with me? Very comfortable, Kurt. Great. And if I find out we're not a good fit for you, Would it be okay if I share that information? Yep, great. If we're not saying no to one another, let's figure out a clear next step. Might be another meeting, might be we do some business today, who knows? We'll figure it out when we get there. Is that okay? Yep, perfect. So upfront agreements, number 2. We already talked about ANOT, appreciate, naturally, obviously, typically. And number 3, I think it's no pressure. I think, unfortunately, for a lot of salespeople, there's a ton of pressure. Who knows what this means? ABC, always be what? How do we finish off? Always be
Closing.
Always be closing. So gross. This is at Sandler, we believe something very distinctly different. We believe in ABQ. Always be qualifying. For a lot of salespeople, they're figuring out if they can get to a close. For me, I'm trying to figure out if a client's qualified or not to work with me. Are they going to be a good representation of my brand as a client? Are they going to be a good referral source for me? Are they going to be a good long-term client of mine? It's not about just, can I get a sale today and a couple of dollars? I couldn't care less about that. I want to be thinking strategically. But part of that means that there's no pressure. There shouldn't be any pressure on me as a salesperson, and there shouldn't be any pressure on my clients as the buyer. We're trying to figure out, is there a fit? Are we equally yoked in the process? And does it make sense? Here's another small way to think about this. My sister-in-law, she's a physician. She's a great physician. She's wonderful. She deals with a lot of patients that have the old diabetes. Now, if she was typical salesperson, here's how she would go into those office visits. Hey, Clay, so great to see you. How you been? You got the diabetes? All right. Oh, this is perfect. Hey, let's get you fixed up. You might lose the foot. I get it. Oh, yeah, totally hear you. Hey, when can I get you back in the office again? I'd love to do a checkup. This is how a lot of salespeople act because they view the role differently than it is. A good physician is going to make sure they're not accused of malpractice, meaning they're going to make sure that they're not accused of prescribing something that doesn't work. And also, they're not going into a client meeting excited like it's their first day at the game. There's a more seriousness about them. If somebody's sharing their challenges with you, oh my gosh, so excited. They're not coming with that enthusiasm. It's inappropriate. I think for a lot of us, if we're to have stronger business posture and less pressure on them and us, we've got to start it toned down a little. Part of that no pressure is me letting them know what I call, somebody else said this, might have been Shane or somebody, is that no yes dyad. That it's okay if they share no with me. No's a complete sentence. I can handle it as a salesperson and I'm not bothered by it. But if it's a yes, I want a clear understanding from their perspective why it's a yes. Not it's a yes because I'm thinking my own stuff. We talked about this earlier. And we'll kind of finish on some of this. But the hide and seek, those follow-up no-nos, maybe we should be stopping today and tomorrow. Before we do that, let me stop sharing for a quick second. I know we've covered quite a bit. Anything else, any questions arise as we start walking through some of this? No questions, we're doing okay? Okay, so I'm gonna go for maybe 5 more minutes and then we'll do some lessons learned. I'll share a little link with you, put your lessons learned in there, but we're gonna share some lessons learned, some things that you wanna start or stop doing today from what you've learned. Some no-nos. The push, naturally, when we start to push, our clients push back. The more we start to force it, the more they force us back. At Sandler, we believe in the pull. What would you like to see happen next? Why does this make sense right now? That's a powerful question. Why would this make sense right now for your organization? The pull is what you want to accomplish. No more me monsters. I know I've talked a little bit about this today, but what is a me monster? What's a me monster?
Thinking of myself and not what the client's needs are.
Yep.
Going as opposed to what theirs are. Putting myself first.
Oh, that's a great one. Putting myself first. Yep. It's all about me. What else? How else does this show up in real life on the me monster side?
I mean,
It could be using lots of I statements, like, I'd like to do this, I want to do that, instead of saying, would you like to do this, or how do you feel about that?
That's a great one. Who just said that, by the way? I didn't see it.
That was Clay.
Play. That's a great one. That's some rock star material. We need to shift our I statements. We call this at Sandler nurturing parent. We should be using more nurturing language, things like we, let's, which means let us, and them statements like, hey, what would you like to do? Hey, how about we do this? Hey, let us schedule for next week. When would you like to see that happen? What day or week makes most sense? Here's two small ways that this often comes up. One on the initial approach call, but I think it also does it on the follow-up piece. Initial approach call normally sounds like this. And hey man, I'd love to get 10 minutes on the clock with you. Love to tell you how great we are at our company and how we've been solving a lot of problems for clients and how awesome we are. Love to be able to tell you about that. And they're like, oh God. I know for me, I get 100 of those emails a day and I go delete. That's a me monster. Why the hell would I want to talk to you if you just sound like everybody else? I'm just going to the delete. And for a lot of us, we pull the email up on our phone. That's how it shows up on the me monster side on an approach. It also sounds me monster on the follow-up. Hey, love to hear, Ian. I love to hear when it might make sense for us to get back on another call. Love to tell you some things that have just been going on that are amazing. Blah. I'm going to show you a small way to change it. This is also a little bonus material. We call this a breakup, but I'm going to give you two options. Breakup. And I'm guessing something's changed in your world. This is going to be the body of my email. I'm guessing something may have changed in your world and you're not quite comfortable telling me that. How about we do this? I'm going to close the file because it sounds like it might not be the right fit for you. If that's not the case, give me a call. 913-348-7302. That's the body of the email. That's a good breakup. Here's what my subject line says. Closing the file, mammoth. Closing the file. You'll get a ton of reaction on that. Oh no, Kurt, no. Hey, just something came up, blah, blah, blah. Had this happen to me yesterday with a guy, been pestering me, fell off the radar. I just said, hey, I think we should close the file on this. He goes, Kurt, no. Here's what happened. It was really unfortunate. Can I schedule this Friday? Yeah, sure. So that's one way to handle a breakup. Here's another one in terms of follow-up so we're not me monsters. Number one, I'm not going to leave that meeting without a clear future. So I'm not chasing them down. If they say, hey, I need to think it over, I'm either going to reapproach that we don't take think it overs, but sometimes people really need to do. They've got big organizations. They got a lot of stuff, which is fine. But I'm going to get a specific date. Say, hey, when do you think you would have some clarity? Well, Kurt, it'd probably be next week. I'm going to say, are you sure? That seems a little tight. No, Kurt, no. I'm going to talk to our VP of purchasing. I do think that I'm going to have time for that. All right, when would you like to schedule it for? When would you like to schedule a follow-up? And I'm going to get the agenda right then and right there. Hey, here's what we're going to cover. Here's who we're going to have on the meeting. Here's the time. And before they get off the thing, I'm going to send a calendar invite. Hey, do me a favor. Ian, I get running really fast. Could you do me a favor and accept my calendar invite? If it's not on my calendar, I'll never remember. And I wait. So now there's not the chase. Less mutual mystification. I think right now we accept a lot of fuzzy language. I just want you to go for clarity. Go for clarity. Clients want clarity. Help them with. If they say something fuzzy, if you're thinking it doesn't sound right, just ask them. Hey, you said this. Curious, what can you share with me what that meant? Lastly, we got to stop spilling the candy in the lobby. No more showing up and throwing up. We've got to get healthy with them on the with them from their perspective, not what we think is great about our services, not what we think is great about our products, but why do they think it's great? The two big ones are why now, why us? Why now, why us? You could just do the same thing you've always done. Why would you want to change any of that? This is going to take a lot of time. You're going to probably have to have a lot of people involved. Why in the world would you want to do that? What's a clarity roadmap? No is always a complete sentence. It's my second favorite word. I don't mind it. And more importantly, if somebody shares it with me, it's no big deal because a no today isn't a no tomorrow. No big deal. And bonus, we already talked about it. We call this the post sell at Sandler. It's a post sell. What we want to prevent is back out, especially on our follow-up. We want to prevent back out, right? Them not showing up for a meeting, them not responding back to my email, them not telling me what's going on with the proposal, whatever it is. I want to prevent back out. So the easiest way to do that, the easiest way, and it's very counterintuitive. It would simply be when they say, hey, I'd like to move forward on this, or hey, I'd like to schedule another meeting. The easiest one is, are you sure? I'm sure that's not hitting everybody right. They go, oh, Kurt, I'm not going to ever ask somebody that. They could tell me no. It's a power question. Your job as a facilitator, as the field guide, is to facilitate the process. And that means we got to be bulletproof when we ask our questions. Are you sure? Well, yeah, I am sure. Why are you asking me? Hey, I know everyone gets a little busy. Everybody's different. Just want to make sure we got the right time down. Just want to make sure this is what you want to do. I think you're going to be perfect. Right? That's called a post sell. We're preventing backouts. Another one to do this in terms of scheduling another meeting. Here's the last one, and then we'll do lessons learned. Last one is, instead of suggesting a date and time, stop doing that. Have them tell you, hey, what date and time would you like to circle back? Well, next week. Okay, perfect. Are you sure? It's the easiest way, but don't suggest it. So they go, hey, next Tuesday. Okay. What time are you thinking? Oh, I don't know, sometime in the morning. Okay, yeah. In the morning, like what time? Oh, I don't know, 10. All right, this will probably take 90 minutes. Sure you have enough time for that? Yeah, I got enough time. Okay, let me send the calendar invite over. Do me a favor, go ahead and accept it. Done. All right, good work. Talked about the post sell. Do me a favor, give us some lessons learned. You can do your phone or just use the link. Take a moment. And then let's go a little round robin style. Let's share some lessons learned. So take yourself off mute. We'll do a quick one. Checking our time. I can't see the screen. What we'll do is I'm going to pick somebody to kick us off, and then you're just going to pass the torch to the next person. Maybe Joe. Joe, can you kick us off? Lesson learned. What might you start or stop doing today?
I really like the yes or no, and don't settle for maybe or kick the can down the road. Those are the two best answers.
Great job, man. All right, pass that torch.
I'll go over to Clay.
All right, Clay, you're up.
Yeah, for me, I think the breakup email is really good, and kind of saying, I'll close the file on this. Let me know if that's not the case. I think that's a good way to gauge what their actual interest level is, especially if they're being unresponsive.
Yeah, great one. I normally do that as my last cadence. So I have a cadence for email follow-up or contact follow-up. It's not the thing I do if it's only been 2 days, right? I give them grace, I give them time, but I love it. Next one, pass the torch for us, Clay.
We can go to Jaime next. We'll keep it in the company.
Nice.
Thanks, Clay. For me, it's clarity and setting expectations, Kurt, right? It seems like a lot of time is being wasted with ambiguity, right? And not really starting, like you mentioned from the get-go, what are the things that we're going to be talking about today? What are the things that I'm looking to accomplish from this meeting? What are the things that you're looking to get out of this conversation, right? I think that the sooner that we have that conversation, the more successful we can be and we achieve the outcome that we want to.
I mean, I got to tell you, that's a rock star answer, man. Really good job on that. One of the things that we do a lot of time and spend a lot of time on it at Sandler is really helping people have more grit, but being willing and able to ask some of those strategic questions in a nurturing way so that we can just have clarity, so that we can have clarity for their sake and for ours. Great job. Pass that torch.
Ian.
Yes, thank you. I think in our space, we're considered an expert, and I think we do get lost in that being the initial foot in the door. Maybe we need to change that.
Well, maybe you don't. Wait a minute, you're an expert in your field. I would want that. But who should you be an expert on?
Say it again. Who?
Yeah. And when we're talking to our buyers, we should know our stuff. Doesn't mean we should tell anybody about it, but we should be experts in our field. But who should we be actual experts on as salespeople? We should actually start being experts on our clients, their pains, their frustrations, their nervousness, their apprehension. We should be experts on that. We should definitely know our stuff. My guess is all our companies do a great job of product knowledge, content knowledge. That's all great. Our role, our job is to become experts on our buyers. That'll get us that clarity, that leverage. Great job, Ian. Pass that torch.
Mark?
I like the why me, why now. So I think about that as, what I said earlier, a way to kind of confirm that there really is interest when I'm getting down the opportunity cycle and make sure that I'm thinking about it from the client's perspective.
Great job. Yeah, it's a powerful one. Really powerful. All right. And is Shane our last one? Shane, do you want to finish us off?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was already said, was really the breakup email. I think that's a great one. But to talk about like a real subtlety that wasn't said was is the time still comfortable for you? Like I've always asked the agenda, but I really like that because so many times you'll get the, hey man, sorry, I got a hard stop. Like I gotta cut this short. And I think just addressing it from the get-go really sets the tone and it emphasizes the agenda of the call. So
Yeah.
I really like it.
Great. Yeah. And just to finish off with what Shane said, when we go into any meeting, I think the three big bucket areas, there could be others, are time. How much time are we going to spend together? Time meaning, am I showing up to your office? Is it Zoom? Time meaning who's going to be on that call? Their agenda. Lastly is the outcome. I want to hit outcome hard. I want to hit the no hard. Hey, how comfortable are you sharing it with me? And then what does a yes look like? Yes might mean another meeting. Yes might mean something else, but what would a clear yes look like? What is a clear next step? Just so that they know. Well, very good. Let me stop sharing. We got about 3 minutes left. Anything else we need to cover before we finish? I think it was a really good job today. All right.
Great. Really appreciate it.
Oh, you're so very welcome. Well, again, good work, guys. I'm going to give you 3 minutes back. It's your day. Man, go out there, make some difference. Be different than your competition.